Would clerk please call the roll?
Good morning, everyone. It is now 11:03 a.m. Calling the roll for the Monday, October 9th Board of Control meeting. Nan Baker, Dale Miller, Trevor McAleer serving as an alternate for Dan Brady, Mike Dever, Dennis Kennedy serving as an alternate for Armin Budish,
Here.
Lenora Lockett. We have a quorum.
Okay, we have been provided with the Board of Control minutes from the meeting of October 1st. Are there any corrections or changes to the minutes by anybody? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Dever. All those in favor of approval of the minutes indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The Board of Control minutes are approved. Is there any public comment today?
No public comment at this time.
Are there any tabled items?
And no tabled items.
So we will go to the first scheduled item.
First scheduled item, item number BC 2018-673, Department of Public Works, recommending an award on requisition 43736 and enter into a cooperative services agreement with United States Department of Agriculture, Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, Wildlife Services, in the amount not to exceed $6,588 to conduct operational control activities to reduce wildlife hazards, utilizing the Cuyahoga County Airport and the critical airspace surrounding the airport. And it's for the period October 1st, 2018 through September 30th, 2019.
Good morning. John Myers on behalf of Department of Public Works. This is a new agreement with the United States Department of Agriculture that will help us be on top of the needs related to safety at the county airport out in Richmond Heights. They provide professional services to come in and take an examination and a survey of our current efforts to limit and protect our aircraft from deer and Canada geese and other varmints that may make their way onto the runway or within the fenced area. So they will be on call too. They'll do an initial assessment, and this is a not to exceed, so if they need to come back out and do additional follow-up services. But this is a critical safety function that the airport has and is top on our users' minds as far as safety. Obviously, a deer on the runway can be a critical and fatal situation. So that's as well as geese in the jets or props can bring a plane down. So our efforts are to be proactive and have objective outside help in looking at this issue.
Does anybody have any questions? Councilman Miller.
When they find wildlife that's going to be a problem at the airport, what do they do about it?
Well, there's a couple of progressive actions. Our efforts right now are to try and show them, so we try and reduce as much water at places that would attract. So the first step is to reduce the chances that they get in. We have a 10-foot perimeter fence around the whole airport to keep deer and other type of wildlife out. So preventative measures is the largest thing that we do. Once, if there is an incursion within the runway area, we have pyrotechnics. Our staff go out there and essentially chase them away using their vehicles or on foot using pyrotechnics to scare them and direct them out of the airport. The USDA has ultimately, if it's unsuccessful, there are, they are equipped to come and if it's a persistent problem, potentially even use lethal action if necessary. Not the goal, and we haven't had to in many years, but because our other steps, both preventative and responsive, have been successful in minimizing the hazards.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Baker?
Curious, I understand, of course, the geese and birds, but the deer with a 10-foot fence, is it that the fence is in bad repair, or did they get through, or how is it that? We
tour the perimeter every day to make sure that there's, sometimes a car could have hit it and allowed something in. I have not seen it, but I have people who work out there who have said they have seen deer jump a 10-foot fence, which is remarkable to me.
Wow.
But they do find a way in there. These last couple of years during our heavy construction project, there are ways that the gate is sometimes open longer than it should be. And there's also a culvert that is important for drainage at the airport that has a gate, and sometimes the gate gets clogged when there's a heavy rain, and there might be some moments that the gate is blocked open. But there's a will, there's a way, Mr. Chairman, the councilwoman. But the biggest effort goes into prevention, but somehow occasionally they still find a way in.
Just as a follow-up, so what do we expect from the Health Inspection Service, the APHIS, when those are type of things that, I mean, are they going to come in and periodically check our fencing and our
Yes, so
culverts?
they will do it, as part of this initial contract, they will do a complete assessment of the entire airport, and perhaps there's something we've missed or to look at differently, or if there's other proactive techniques that the best practices that are currently in place right now throughout the nation. These are the folks that would be conscious and aware of that and help us put the best practices into place.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will move to approve the item. Is there a second? Second. Mr. McAleer, all those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved.
Next item is a two-part item, item BC 2018-674, Department of Information Technology, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 43672, which will result in an award recommendation to EP Technology, Inc. in the amount of $4,548, and it's for the purchase of 18 toner cartridges for Microplex HD60 and HD90 mainframe printers, and B, recommending the award in connection with said RP exemption.
Good morning, Board. Dennis Sullivan with Department of IT. This is a department order for the toner for the two units that are down on Lakeside.
Any questions on the item? Seeing none, I will move to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Denver. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you.
Two-part item, item BC 2018-675, Department of Human Resources. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 42619, which will result in an award recommendation to Health and Fitness Incorporated in the amount of $31,320, and it's for the purchase of employee wellness equipment to be used by staff at the Cuyahoga County Office of the Medical Examiner, and B, recommending the award in connection with said RP exemption.
Good morning. Holly Woods, Director of HR for Benefits and Compensation. The recommended vendor for this RFP exemption was selected by state contract. The purchase is for wellness equipment to implement a wellness center to be installed at the medical examiner's office. This firm is one of two that are approved on state contract for this equipment. The pricing provided is actually below state contract pricing. We appreciate the board's consideration of the request.
Any questions on this item? Councilwoman Baker?
So what are the two pieces of equipment? Are they replacement or are they new?
This is new, so it's actually for 8 pieces of equipment, a recumbent bike, an upright bike, 3 treadmills, and 3 ellipticals.
Oh, so there's 8 pieces.
Correct.
How did I read there were two items being purchased? Oh, lower than the state contract, okay. And if I may, are they finished with is this completed?
Yes, so they have been working on a remodel of the area to actually put the equipment in. And so I believe they're almost, if not complete, almost complete. And then we'll put the equipment in, perform all the measures, and then we'll open the wellness center.
Dan Smock on behalf of Department of Human Resources. Councilman, 2 of the items listed are below state contract. The other are at the state contract price.
Thank you.
Mr. Dever?
Maintenance contract that comes with these also?
Pat Smock again. They're currently under warranty, but there will be a future maintenance contract potentially upcoming for the equipment.
Right, is the intent for, obviously, we're opening these wellness centers in various county buildings, so there'll be one large maintenance contract to take care of all this equipment, I'm assuming that.
That would be the goal. We have been purchasing all the equipment through the same provider. So the goal, once the warranties are up, would be to secure one maintenance contract.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will move to approve the item. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved.
Next item, BC 2018-676, Department of Human Resources, submitting an amendment to a contract with Imix Technology, Inc. for technical support and maintenance of Cronos time clocks, and it's for the period February 1st, 2015 through September 30th, 2018, to extend the time period to March 29th, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $8,878.11.
Good morning, Pat Smock on behalf of the Department of Human Resources again. This is an amendment to extend the technical support agreement that we have with the vendor that provides service to our the county's County Executive Agency Cronos time clocks. They normally only provide one-year extensions. We negotiated with them to provide a 6-month extension, and now we understand we may be coming forward with an additional 6-month extension if needed early in the new year, and we appreciate your consideration of the request.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes.
Councilman Miller.
Is this an item that goes away when the ERP system is done?
Yes, Councilman. The ERP will involve new time clocks. It will not be Cronos devices, and so it will be going away at that point in time. And that's why I spoke to the timing of exactly when this contract should come to an end. If we'll need another amendment, et cetera.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will move to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dever. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Thanks, Pat.
Next item is a two-part item, BC 2018-677, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 41720, which will result in an award recommendation to TAC Computer, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $44,602.50. And it's for Ohio Law Enforcement Network subscription services and software support for use by the Northeast Ohio Regional Fusion Center and the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office. And it's for the period January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2020. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RP exemption.
Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety, and I'm going to talk about the Fusion Center portion of this contract as well as the reason that it's late. The TAC supplies record management systems to a number of law enforcement agencies throughout Ohio, and a part of this system is that each of these record management systems that its various law enforcement departments use are actually networked, so they can actually see information about individuals who are in their jails or are part of their general case files. Although the Fusion Center does not have a contract for record management system with TAC, the vendor is allowing them access to the network to help them with their law enforcement efforts, but more specifically for their homeland security efforts. The Fusion Center has been using the system since 2012 and would like to continue to use it. What this does, it allows the Fusion Center to enter the name or a phone number to look up information about an individual, either for law enforcement or for the Federal Terrorist Screening Center, and they use it on a daily basis. Without access to this system, they would have to resort to actually emailing law enforcement agencies, which would not be an effective method of getting information. And the reason that this is late is that this contract has actually been of challenge. We initially encountered problems with the vendor because they were not sure of whether or not they were going to be able to comply with the county's insurance requirements. We were finally able to get that resolved, but in the interim, we were asked to take and do a joint contract to include the Sheriff's Department, and we ran into some issues actually getting a clearly defined scope of services for that aspect of the contract. We were able to get that resolved in July, and then The contract, we got all the final paperwork on August 10th, and we submitted it, and it had to go through the county's approval process. Because this is technology-based, it had to go to county IT for review also. So the county, once we submitted it, everything was timely. It just takes a little while for it to go through that process. And we have someone from the Sheriff's Department to talk about their aspect.
Good morning. Sergeant Pat Dublin, representing County Sheriff's Department. Just a little background. This is for an annual support and maintenance for our RMS and MDT system. Our RMS is our report management system, and our MDTs is our mobile data terminals, okay, which is our computers in our cars. The software provides us for additional tools for running computerized criminal history in the vehicles, and for us to manage and consolidate all of our reports in one central location. In the past, when we did reports, we had an electronic version stored in 10 different areas depending on your unit. Okay, this consolidates it all into one place, so if a person comes in at the front desk asking for a report, it's in one central location. They don't need to know which department took the report. This will also provide additional investigative work. Contract will provide support and maintenance, okay, for all the software to keep up the data, and it will also minimize our paperwork. And excuse me, it will also upload all the information from our IMAC, which is our booking system, up into OLEN, so other law enforcement agencies have all the current information that we have, okay, as far as current addresses, date of birth, photos, and everything that will be investigative tools for other police departments.
Thank you. Any questions related to this? Councilwoman Baker?
So it sounds like a good idea that we expand it to the Sheriff's Department. Why didn't we think about including the sheriff's part of this back in January when we were first going to have this contract begin?
Well, we actually started working on the fusions portion of the contract back in October. We became aware of the fact that the sheriff was going to enter into a contract with TAC in January, and it was at that point in time we actually started working on it. So it actually did take from January to July to get that scope of services clearly defined.
So the Sheriff's Department was going to go with TAC on its own, and we thought it would be better to include them into one contract.
That's correct.
Let's see, I had another. Oh, and I'm not, real familiar with Fusion. As you described it, they are allowed to use the services that we have in place. Is there any concern that because it's not part of the contract and they're only allowing us to use it, that could change in the contract that ends not until the end of 2020?
If for some reason, I actually spoke with the owner of TAC. I don't envision that being the case. But if for some reason they were to start saying Fusion could not, we do have the ability to terminate that portion of the contract, and then just the portion that pertains to the sheriff would continue.
And just one last follow-up. Any thought, perhaps at the end of this contract, that we build Fusion in as part of the contract and not be vulnerable to changes that may not be anticipated?
I'm not sure that I completely understand the question. So the issue is that the sheriff uses it for their report management system. They use another of TAC's products. All of these other law enforcement agencies are using a record management system, which is one of TAC's products. There's no need for Fusion to have a record management system, so it's simply just having that ability to access the data is what we're paying for.
And accessing the data, is that built into the contract, I guess is what I'm asking?
That is the purpose of the contract. For Fusion, that is the sole reason we even have this contract.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question. If the contract wasn't effective until now, until it's passed, and then it's going to be retroed back to January 1st.
Right.
So we've been accessing the systems from January through October without any kind of legal agreement? Is that
That's
to
correct. The
access
ven-
law enforcement data?
Because it's Homeland Security, the vendor has allowed the Fusion Center to continue to access it. The Federal Terrorist Screening Center is actually part of the FBI, and it's part of the mandated functions of Fusion Centers to do background information for them. So because it's a more effective tool, he has allowed them to access it.
Okay, it just seems like there should be some kind of agreement that, especially if you're looking at law enforcement data, to allow people, what if something ever went wrong? I don't know, so. Okay, any other questions? Mr. McAleer?
Are any of the other partners within the Fusion Center helping to pay for the contract, or is it just Cuyahoga County paying for 100% of the contract?
This part of the contract, only Cuyahoga County is paying for it. The other counties do provide support to the Fusion Center through the various grants we have, specifically the Homeland Security grants, our regional grants, and typically the Fusion Center's projects are always first priority, recognizing that this is an important asset for us.
And we don't have any grant money or any Homeland Security money that could be used instead of the general fund?
Particular case, no, because this contract, since its inception, was general fund. We can't use grant dollars. It would be considered supplanting.
One last.
Yes, Councilwoman.
So do you anticipate at the end of 2020, when this contract is going to be renewed, that everyone will have their act together and be able to not be late?
Definitely. And this was just a one-time growing pain. The part of the challenge was with this contract is the original contract that we started with in October was very specifically Fusion Center and Ohio Law Enforcement Network, and the whole contract was written that way. What we've ultimately switched to was a generic county template, and we've made the Fusion's portion an appendix, and then we made the Sheriff's Department an appendix to it. So we should not run into any of those barriers again.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will move to approve this item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Dever. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you.
Next item BC 2018-678, Office of the Medical Examiner, recommending a sole source award on requisition 42470 and enter into a contract with Lodox NA LLC in the amount not to exceed $52,500, and it's for support and maintenance on the StatScan critical imaging system for the period April 30th, 2017 through April 29th, 2020.
Steve Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. You have to apologize for this one. This one is late, excessively late, actually. Neither our office or the vendor realized that the initial maintenance that was part of the purchase had lapsed. And so when they came out in 2018 to do their annual checkup on the digital x-ray, they both kind of stumbled across and said, oh, this is not a current contract anymore. So I have to apologize for that. There's really no other excuse for it. And this is just the maintenance contract going forward for this piece of equipment. It is a $450,000 piece of equipment, so having maintenance on it is probably a wise decision, though.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councilman Miller?
Have services continued to be provided even though we didn't have a contract?
They did earlier this year when they came for their maintenance visit, and that's when they started, with the updates. They did their annual maintenance at that time. So it was that one visit. I think they were, because it was partially their error as well, they didn't want to just walk away and do nothing, so.
And if we don't have a lot of problems with this equipment, would we in fact use considerably less than the $52,500?
We've talked about that because there are certain levels. There's actually a level higher than what we've done, and there's a level lower. Based on the amount of calls that they have been put on, we chose the one kind of in the middle to make sure that we cover, because any break in this equipment is going to be excessively expensive to replace. So we want to make sure that we're getting enough eyes on the equipment on a semi-regular basis to make sure that we're not incurring additional costs in the future.
And does this contract just cover the watching and the preventive maintenance, or if something does break, would that also be covered?
So it will cover a certain number of annual emergency visits. It won't pay for the parts themselves that might need to be replaced, but it will pay for the labor of the fixes.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Baker?
It was recognized in 2018 that the contract had expired.
Yes.
This contract started in 4/30/2017. So was there any time in that year that they came in and looked at it and said, oops?
I don't believe that is the case. I believe that was the last time that someone had been out was early in 2017, which is why they didn't catch it. But I will make sure and look at the maintenance logs to make sure that there wasn't anything further done.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will move to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved.
Next item, BC 2018-679, Office of the Medical Examiner, recommending an award on requisition 42464 and to enter into a contract with Radiation Detection Company in the amount not to exceed $3,600 for dosimetry services, and it's for the period March 1st, 2018 through February 28th, 2021.
Hugh Shannon again, Medical Examiner's Office. So again, this is a late contract. It is somewhat tied to the previous, even though it's a different vendor. When we realized that the maintenance was late, we also noticed that the dosimetry was expiring. Those are the detectors that the technicians have to wear while they're operating the equipment to make sure that they maintain safe levels of radiation exposure during operation of the equipment. And my procurement person just said that, when she found that out, that it was expiring, she went to work on it. We did have a lot of back and forth between legal and between the company that lasted throughout the summer before it finally it got finalized. This one's a much smaller number, however.
Any questions? Councilwoman Baker?
So these are two, and I think there's been a couple in the past. What policy or procedure do you have in place that checks your contracts? Do you have someone that's...
So unfortunately, we have one person who does the buying for the entire unit, both on the forensic side and the medical examiners. And she does have some system of spreadsheets that do track these. And what she says is, unfortunately, when she gets extremely busy, which is often, it's just a matter of making sure that those checks are done on a regular basis. And like I said, these two items are tied together. They're both for the same unit,
Right.
up in X-ray, and it just hit us at a time when she was not, she didn't have a lot of free time.
Do you think that there's any remedy to
Well,
that?
part of it is this person reports directly to me, so I'm going to make sure now that I have direct access to those same spreadsheets so that I can keep a better track of it. So I take responsibility for this myself. It's something that I should have been paying more attention to as well.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? I have a quick one, Hugh. It says in the backup here, the procurement method was RFQ, and the procurement was closed on May 17th, 2018. How can the contract be 3/1/2018 if the procurement closed on May?
I think that's when the last one expired. It's not a new contract, it's a continuation of an old one. Even though it went to RFQ, I think it's the same company. There's only one company, I think.
So it's one of those contracts they asked to run concurrent with the expiration of the previous one?
Right,
Is that?
right. That's how it was explained to me. I thought that's what the case was.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I will move to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2018-680, Office of the Medical Examiner. Recommending a sole source award on requisition 43416 to forensic testing services in the amount of $2,475, and is for the purchase of trace evidence proficiency testing materials to maintain accreditation of the Cuyahoga County Regional Forensic Science Laboratory.
Hugh Shannon, sorry, I thought I was done there. So every year, each of our individual laboratory units in the forensic lab goes through a series of proficiency testing for all of its personnel to make sure that they maintain their education, their backup education, continuing education, and are completely familiar with the changes that are made throughout the year on our SOPs, any new equipment that may have been purchased, things like that. This testing center provides additional materials for those proficiencies on an annual basis for us.
Any questions on this item? Hearing none, I will move to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Dever. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you again.
So now we move on to the consent agenda.
Consent agenda item numbers BC 2018-681 through 687.
So if everybody can take a moment to take a final look at those items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions on any of the items? Hearing none, I will move to approve the consent agenda items. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Dever. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The consent agenda items are approved. Other business, Madam Clerk.
Yes, we have 3 mission-critical items. The first mission-critical item is from the Department of Public Works, recommending an award on 43024 with Scaffolding and Supply in the amount not to exceed $24,312, and it's for service of the Juvenile Justice Center scaffolding, broken windows replacement on the upper floors of the Juvenile Justice Center.
Good morning.
We will have to amend the agenda, correct?
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to consider this item. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Dever. All those in favor of adding this item to the agenda indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The agenda is amended.
Good morning, Matt Reimer, representing the Department of Public Works. This item was for a 7-floor scaffold to repair a 9th floor shattered window at the Juvenile Justice Center, and that was what was needed to support the repair effort. The department, when we became aware of the shattered window, made a mission-critical determination. We received 2 quotes, and then put it out on buy speed for the requisite 2 hours, and this was the lowest of the 2 quotes. This is the final invoice for that repair work.
Are there any questions on this item? Mr. McAleer.
Matt, what was the cause of the broken window? Was that
I have a picture. It was projectile oriented, so I'd have to defer to the sheriff's investigation on the final determination, but there was something that hit the window.
Do you know, is it still under investigation, or is the investigation been concluded?
I don't know, but I could follow up.
Okay, please. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on this item? Councilman Miller.
In this item, did we actually buy the scaffold or just pay for it to be used for this repair?
We just paid for it to use for this repair, Councilman, so the charges that were incurred were for the labor to install, the rental for the period of time that we had it on site, and then for the removal of the scaffold afterwards.
Most money I've ever heard to fix one broken window.
It's significant height to get up to there, and yes, it's problematic to do anything on the exterior of that facade high up.
Do you know what the funding source is?
I believe this went to the building, correct? Space maintenance fund.
Sorry.
General fund.
Okay, any other questions related to this item? Hearing none, I will move to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved.
The next mission critical item is Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, recommending an award on requisition 43889 to George Junior Republic in the amount not to exceed $24,999.99 for emergency placement services for the period August 13th, 2018 through December 31st, 2018.
Good morning, Bob Math with the Department of Health and Human Services on behalf of the Division of Children and Family Services. This is a mission critical. This is a child that was placed in a local residential facility, was experiencing some significant behavioral issues. DCFS couldn't identify another provider locally that could handle this child. They determined that the child needed a more restrictive environment, and they identified an entity called George Junior Republic, which is in Grove City, Pennsylvania, to place that child there.
Okay, I will make a motion to amend today's agenda to consider this item. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Dever. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is amended. Are there any questions related to this item from
How
anyone?
old is the child?
The boy was 15, or is 15.
And how much service can we get for the $24,999?
Well, it depends upon the length of stay. You know, the child's going to remain in George in this facility. You know, if the child's going to remain, you know, beyond a couple months, you know, then they'll have to add the provider to the master contract and pay whatever their per diem rate is.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Baker?
Sorry. Just a question, the 8/13/2018, is that the date that he was?
That's the date the child was placed at George Junior, and we only know about it when DCFS tells us that's when the child was placed there, unfortunately. That's why it's late.
Any other questions? Mr. McAleer?
But the one-page summary talks about some previous domestic violence charges against this child. Are those pending, do you know, or has he gone through the court system?
Trevor, I don't know. I can surely find out.
I was just
I
curious.
think it's pending.
Okay, we're responsible for transportation then,
Yes.
right? From the home
Ultimately,
back.
we would
Okay,
be, yes.
That's what, I just was curious to see what the status of that was. Thanks, Bob.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve this item. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Dever. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you.
The next mission critical item, Office of the Medical Examiner, recommending an award on requisition 43880 to Agilent Technologies in the amount not to exceed $2,848.51 to purchase parts for the internal repair of one Agilent gas chromatograph instrument, and it's for the period October 4th, 2018 through October 11th, 2018.
Hugh Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. So we have a number of gas chromatographs in operation at any one time. When this one went down, it happened to be set for one of the critical assays that we use to do the fentanyl screens. And the staff will be able to effectuate the repairs themselves. So this is merely a purchase of equipment, replacement equipment.
Thank you. I will make a motion to amend today's agenda to consider this item. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Dever. All those in favor of amending the agenda indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The agenda is amended. Are there any questions about this item? Mr. McAleer.
I know it talks about that it was on by speed for 2 hours or so, but is this, I mean, would this ultimately be considered a sole source? Is this the only company that can provide the
Agilent, yeah. So if you use equipment outside of what the manufacturer specifies, then you kind of invalidate a lot of their warranties. I don't know if there are specific, they all have their own specified dealers that operate on their behalf. I don't know if that's covered in this or not, or whether it was cheaper and quicker to get it directly from the main site. I'm guessing that's why it went right to Agilent. That's usually the case. The dealers out in the field usually mark things up significantly.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Dever. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
That's all for the
No other business at this time.
Any other additional public comment?
No public comment at this time.
So I will move to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Dever. That's a record number of seconds for you. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. No opposed. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Right.